actually showing us what we really, really, really intend to learn from this session today.
Thank you so much, Asma, and thank you so much, Ali, for the opportunity uh, to have me at this forum and be able to tell my story. So, how do you want to do this, Asma?
So, we have our participants around. If they have any questions that they would like to begin with, we can do that. Or I think that would be something nice to start off with in terms of, wanting to know and understand what they want to know and understand from you. And then you can, start off with your story. So, participants, if there are any questions that you would address, which you would like to address to Shaista, and then she can take it from there. You can unmute yourself and speak or leave a question on chat. So, till our participants are putting their thoughts together, Shaista, I had one question from you. And I also feel कि वो question जो है usually आता है during a time when women are usually trying to um, reach up a certain corporate ladder, or supposedly जो हमारा वो होता है that pinnacle of actual success जो worldly success. What is that one point? And in your own definition, how would you define what success really means to you? And then I would move towards, how success means and how that also kind of becomes a part of your own motherhood and how that takes it into a different.
Sure. I mean, if just to give you some background on the kind of person that I really am, and somewhat the mantra that I've sort of started following over the passage of time is sometimes, the strongest thing that you can do is not move. You just need to kind of stand still and breathe. And as I'm aging and as I'm sort of evolving, I'm believing more and more in this particular statement. Success is actually relative. You have your own definition. For some it may mean more money, for some it may mean more prestige, um, but it's essentially sort of evolving from stage A to stage B, doing something that you've never done before and kind of breaking those particular barriers. And if I look within my context, I think success is not like one single destination. It arrives in bits and pieces across one's lifetime, and you just need to kind of recognize it, that and sort of understand the several number of times that you've been successful, that you've been able to do something that you thought you were not able to do. And again, success is not about size. It's not like uh, unless it's not huge and tremendous, you cannot count it as success. I think you need to look for all moments, big or tiny, where you have been able to overcome something. You've moved and you've been able to bring about a change, and that has been a conscious change, and you've sort of been able to remain consistent with it. And that too is success. So there have been several moments like that in my journey. I was the kind of girl who never really liked to fit the mold. I was not the loudest. I was not the boldest. And I was not always the one who knew what to say at what point in time. But I was somebody who listened um, very deeply, somebody who observed. And I, to this day, feel things more than I should actually. And I liked to ask uncomfortable questions, right? Things like, why do we build things and systems that exclude people? Why do we wait for permission to act? Why are we okay with things being broken, as long as they don't directly inconvenience us? So, you know, um, life is very strange, and it tests you in the silence, and not in the noise. So, uh, for me, success has been able to sort of, uh, it's not like um, it's been able to break all those specific barriers. It's been a moment when, specifically in my role as a mother, understanding that, mothers are not prophets, and we're not like, hum wali nahi hote, so, and we're not angels either, right? So we can make those mistakes, and motherhood is a journey. And understanding it with the passage of time, also realizing that, eh, you can't instantly begin to bond. It's specifically when you've had your first baby, you don't instantly begin to bond. It takes some time, because that whole experience is so new. And given that you had started to talk about success, for me, it was building my own definition of motherhood and my own relationship with my child, and understanding that there are no manuals. No mother is a bad mother, and you do what you feel and believe to be is the best for your child. And with the passage of time, sort of, um, building and growing on that specific definition as a mother. And then, while I had my children, and then I was, um, I was also working, and then you begin to realize, that it's very unrealistic, the expectations that come off of us, from a woman, if she's working and she's also a mother, that she's supposed to be good at everything, which is simply not possible. It's not humanly possible. So you try to do whatever you can do. And again, um, given you had me talking about success, my definition began to change. I realized I don't need a 10 on 10 on everything. I don't need to be super mom, and I don't need to be super boss. I will do what is required when the role asks of me, and I need to sort of show up, uh, to the best of my potential. But it doesn't have to be 100 on 100 or a 10 on 10, right? And I need to be okay with that. And, as time went on, I began to sort of realize that, success is kind of boxed in this glamorous, sort of facade. And that's not what it is. It's in the tiny moments. It's on like an everyday basis. And that's, and you find your place within those spaces. You learn to appreciate everything that comes to you on a day-to-day basis. It's not a 5-year business plan. That's not what life is. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 seconds, 1 second. So 5 years is a long time, and you have some vision, but you begin to appreciate, and you begin to sort of live in the moment and in the present, and you tend to live life on a day to day basis, and appreciate everything as it comes along the way. I don't know if I've been able to answer your question, um, but I mean, one important thing is that I think we need to do away with all the definitions that the world has. कि success ऐसी होनी चाहिए. This is what a super mom looks like. This is what a super boss looks like. This is what a super woman looks like. I mean, I think we need to take all of those definitions and throw them in the trash can, and
I
work
totally
with,
agree with you over
yeah,
there.
yeah,
Work
and
with what is your
yeah,
normal,
absolutely.
because everyone's normal is very different. And I think one of our participants also agreed on, how it is so important for us to actually accept ourselves as individuals rather than as the supermom or the super boss that we're expected of doing as well.
Yeah.
So rather than chasing that excellence constantly, it's so important for us to just accept that mediocre and use that mediocre to say that this is my excellence. Find a new meaning towards that as a point of excellence for ourselves. So true. Thank you so much for sharing. Shaisa, there is a question for you to begin with. One of our participants really want to understand what your journey has been like, and they will want to know more about your journey in terms of however you would want to describe that as motherhood, as with you being a professional as well, and how you would like to take that. So that's question one for you. There
Okay.
is question number two as well. How to show grit and grace in situations where you feel totally hopeless and when life has thrown you in the no escape zone. What do you really do? How do you really come out of it? I keep telling people go watch When Life Shows You Tangerines. It's a lovely series. It's a Korean new series, and they really teach you what grit and grace really is as well. So yeah. Rabia, we welcome you. I know you've been in and out, and Rabia is also here. She was on her way to the airport, but the airport has sent her back home again. So all the flights have been cancelled, and she's been away from her family, her kids, for a couple of days now. So that's resilience for you. That's resilience from her family and her kids as well. So over and over to you, Shaista. Rabia,
Hi, Asma. How are you? I'm here.
I'm good. Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah. I think this is a true defining moment of grit and resilience and grace, if I
Yes,
may
all
say so.
three. All three. Thank you so much for still being here, Rabia. I think it's just brilliant in every possible way. But I my heart goes out to you and your family in its own way because I know how difficult this is. With uncertain circumstances around, and then your kids being home and you being away from them, it's a tough one.
I think it's more tough when the children turn around and tell you, it's okay, you're in a great place. And I think that kind of for me, Asma and hi Shaista, it was a real setback yesterday because here the kids are looking out for me, you know and that becomes the true reward uh for motherhood, I guess, in a way. And I'm sorry if there's a lot of background noise. It's like you said, circumstances in uncertain times.
Thank you for being here. And like you said, grace in its actual truest form. Rabia is here with us. We got to know about this situation yesterday, and that's when we decided to actually go online because we didn't want Rabia to go away. We wanted to still be with her. She just represented one of our truest forms of resilience that we've seen. I've seen her grow. Rabia and I go back school days, actually, to be very honest. We used to play throw ball and break fingers, but till now, I think it just literally comes back to how we've seen each other grow in our own spaces, and there's nothing better than being there for her and by her side right now.
Absolutely. And I think, the word growth, or this journey of growth, Asma, like, I mean, we've been together since what, age 10, and now we have our own children, but the process of it, um, having seen each other grow, then ungrow, then regrow, and and it becomes it it's it's literally a battlefield. Then you wait for recovery, then you battle on again. And it really puts you in this it makes you of some great substance, I believe, if you have the ability to grow, ungrow, and then regrow. It's absolutely, I think we as women are, we're just amazing beings.
That is so true. And that's exactly why we had this entire um event put together, because we wanted to learn from you and Shaista that what it does take from each one of you as people, and what is it that is usually taken away as well. Like the question that was just thrown to Shaista as well right now is, Shaista, what do we do when life throws you into that little corner as well? How do you really come out from that?
So, a very interesting question, and something that I kind of discover on a daily basis, specifically given the circumstances right now, right? Uh, so when we talk about grit and grace, it's not about trying to find the light and switching it on. It's really about how we intend to kind of choose to walk in the dark, because that's the hardest part. You're hopeless, you're down in your sympathy pool, you feel like a victim, everything's going wrong. And it's there in that darkness that you kind of need to decide, what am I going to do? It's not false or toxic optimism. It's none of that. Okay. We're allowed our space to cry, to whine, all of those things, to complain. Um, and these are natural instincts that have been granted to us by God. So I think, uh, should you want to cry and scream and whine, you should just do it and get it out of your system. uh but I mean, in really hopeless situations, when you don't want to get out of bed, you don't want to send that one email, you don't want to pay that one bill, uh you literally take that one action to get up and say, well, you know what, I'm not done yet. I still have some left in me, and I'm going to get up and do this. And you might be sitting on the floor, with your head in your hands, but you still need to keep saying that I'm not done yet. So that's part one, where you kind of make this proclamation that, um, you know um, there's still stuff that I need to do. And it's grit without grace. So grit and grace kind of go together. If you have grit without grace, then it's just cruelty. And that's why you need grit with grace, because uh you offer a version in that space of yourself that, where you can't fight today, but you still manage to show up. You pause, but that's without shame, and you know that what grit with grace offers is sort of like, the validation that, yes, if you're taking care of yourself in times when you're hopeless, it's not the wrong thing. There's nothing wrong in pausing. So if you're feeling down and hopeless and life has punched you in the gut, take a moment. There is nothing wrong in breathing, which is what I had sort of said earlier, right? It's not about constantly having to be on the go. Take a breath. Nothing's going to fall apart, and nothing, much to contrary to the way that we think. That's not the way it is. Nothing will fall apart. But if you don't take a moment for yourself to kind of breathe and recalibrate, you will fall apart. And then it's really not worth it, right? And then also need to kind of understand that, uh, you know, growth is not optimism. It's not sunflower. Sorry, grit is not optimism. It's not sunflowers and all of that. Um, right word here would be defiance, where you say, even if nothing changes tomorrow, I'm going to still show up today. And it's about, saying that even though the world has broken me or the situation around me is broken, and sorry, those are my children in the background who want to play in the same room where I'm having the session. So if you hear some sounds, um, but it's like, you still continue to believe that you matter. So that growth is, it's about showing up when you don't want to, on the worst of days, because you know what, you owe it to yourself. And maybe you don't want to show up, even taking that pause is your right. So, don't feel bad about it. We all get into hopeless situations where we feel like, oh dear, we simply cannot go on. This is the end of the line. But it really isn't. It's a moment of darkness that you will get through, because nothing in life remains the same for far too long, right? And, uh, it's, and don't be afraid to ask for help, because sometimes when we're in a moment of hopelessness, we have this false ego, or um, this thing where we feel like I have to do it all myself. That grit is all about, you know, it's it, it's solitary. It isn't. Sometimes the bravest thing is saying, I need someone to walk this path with me. I need someone's help. I need someone to listen to me, and not apologizing to people for being the one in need. So, when life does uh, dish out lemons, or it punches you in the gut, the most important thing is to kind of pause and listen to everything. Listen to the pain that you have. Listen to the sound of your own breath, okay? And listen to the version of yourself that you haven't been listening to. And it's not important to keep moving. Just stand still and kind of take it all in and recalibrate. Sometimes what we're doing in a hopeless situation, it's like being stuck in a dust storm. If you kind of just let it pass, you're going to still be standing there, and you will be able to get out of that situation, instead of, even, in situations when they say, if you try and fight the water, then you drown. Don't fight the situation. Sometimes um surrendering is the right thing to do. And that's what grit and grace teach you, right? Instead of because you need grace, you need that you know how shall I say this, you need that kind of kindness to yourself when you are down in the dumps, so that you can be able to sort of bring yourself up. So I hope I've been able to answer that question, hopefully.
So, Shaista, I wanted you to maybe get into some of the journey that really defined that moment when you felt things have just been too much, and how you dealt with that, how that story played out for you.
So I'll narrate just a second, please.
Sure, sure. And this is why I envy mothers so much. I envy all of you for having to
Sorry.
deal with two lives at the same time.
So,
um,
one story that's very close to my heart, and it's sort of added to my second born was born with a congenital birth defect. It was a congenital heart defect, and it's called transposition of the great arteries. And usually, well, the statistics say that 1 in 50,000 kids are born with this, right? So when he was born, and nobody in my family, husband's family or my own, none of the children were born with any such defects. So when this happened, and we kind of realized that this has happened, and that he had about a 20% chance of survival, um, I remember distinctly when we had brought him home. I just distinctly remember looking up at the sky and, saying to Allah Ta'ala that, you know what, you are going to grant my son a life and a very healthy life, and I'm not taking no for an answer. That's what I distinctly remember saying to him. And sometimes, sort of the universe plays its role in answering your prayer. And I remember the next morning, and we had rain all night. I remember it was around Fajr time, and I saw a rainbow. And I like to take my signs. That's also one super important thing. When you're down in the dumps, listen to the universe, because it will give you signs. It will be some child laughing, answering your question. It'll be a rainbow. It will be a cup of coffee or tea when you least expect it. Open up to that providence, please. Okay, we tend to make everything so boring and mundane. Don't do that. When it might be your husband offering you ice cream or tea for the very first time in his life, take it as a sign and say, okay, things are going to get better. And that's what I did. I sort of took that as a sign. And I mean, I obviously, I needed my, I don't think I cried or anything. My husband or I, we decided, and that we had to get through this no matter what. We had to equip ourselves with all the knowledge and all the understanding and all the education around heart defects, so that we could deal with it in that way. So again, when you feel like you don't have a solution, shut yourself up in a room for 1 hour, don't talk to anybody, and kind of recalibrate your situation. You will get the answers, trust me. I've tried it, and we were able to situate the doctors how we were going to do this, worst case scenario, best case scenario, all of that. And um, it was not easy. His surgery, his entire sort of uh, process when he was getting well. But I have to tell you that um, I don't think, if I didn't have grit with grace, I don't think I could have gotten through. I just decided, whether I like it or not, and how horrible I feel in this particular point in time, I will wake up, because I have to do this for him, for myself, and I have to give it my very best shot. More than anybody else, I mean, in that situation, I owed it to my child, but in times when you are super, super hopeless, you need to get up for yourself. You owe it to yourself. Uh, and it's like a responsibility that we have to ourselves, because quitting is obviously the easiest. It's the easiest thing to do. Obviously, of course, when consequences or circumstances sort of call for it, then you need to kind of throw in the towel. But what I'm saying is that, when you know you can and you still don't give it your best, you've sort of underestimated yourself. And I don't think we should do that. And I could have sat down on the hospital floor and cried and whatever. And I said, no, nothing doing. I mean, the whole thing was a story out of Reader's Digest. I kid you not. It was like air ambulances and, oh my goodness, watching a surgery like live from, the observer's room and everything. And I kind of, and I think I and then once you've sort of passed through that storm, recognizing, and we usually don't do that, we don't sit down, because a new part has grown to us, whatever it is, a second heart, a third spine, something has happened and changed, and we usually don't sit down to ever appreciate how we've grown. But take some time. That's why we need silence in our lives, to sort of uh, understand that, oh my goodness, this happened and this is how we have changed. And I think I'm able to tell this story, and you kind of look back and you understand why God ever put you in that situation. And I realize today how that has fed into the kind of work that I do today in terms of social impact, the kind of work that I want to do for children, for women. It gave me that empathy, that sensitivity, that the ability to sort of recognize someone else's pain, fear, whatever it is. And I think that very dark moment was ultimately meant to feed into who and what I am today. So I don't know, Ali, I hope that answers your questions and kind of summarizes.
It does, and having known you uh, for a major part of our lives now, and having seen you go through those years, I know for sure that those were very trying years for you. I mean, it comes up uh, in a conversation. It may not reflect 100%, but I know for a fact, seeing you and your husband at that point. Um, deal with this really new situation. um, and then once that was done, seeing you pivot around and going back and getting back into the work life and how you managed to uh, learn from your experience going forward, that is amazing for sure. Rabia, would you like to add a little bit of your journey into this conversation?
Absolutely. I think Shaista put it, really beautifully when she talks about showing up, right? Not just for what you're experiencing in terms of your child, in terms of your family, but also showing up for yourself because you are the spine. You are the spine of the village. Um, I think showing up also for me, grit. There's something about persistence and consistency, the discipline of showing up consistently and persistently for yourself. Because I feel that a lot of times we forget that it's not about doing it once or doing it twice. It's about doing it again and again and again. And that's where the brick of grit comes from, when we think about, okay, has she done this 10 times? Has she, like Shasta was talking about her journey of how difficult times were, and it's getting up again and again. And most journeys, Ali, are like that. They just don't get the platform, they just don't get the spotlight. But I mean, that is what women are doing, whether they come from a underprivileged strata, or where they come from an elite strata, whatever their circumstances are, whatever their conditions are, they are not just, I'm not going to say struggling, okay, I'm going to say they are persisting challenges, you know and that's a completely different ball game, because one may not see a challenge or a struggle in the same light as somebody else is experiencing it. And so when when Shaista was talking about congenital, I almost had like a I I know what it is. I know what it is when you have to go in and out of hospitals. But if you have resources, if you have privilege, if you have a village, if you have a support system, uh, how much that enables your back to remain strong. And if you don't have a village, or if you have people who are from the same gender and are telling you repeatedly, well, you know what? The rest of the women are doing just fine. What's your problem? And that's where not just grit, but the grind of nerves also gets tested, because the comparison is strong. The even the depreciation of, like, you feel like you're not doing enough, you're not good enough, you are not doing it properly. And if we talk about mothers, what is the first thing that a mother gets to hear in a maternity ward? In our maternity ward, you get to hear, "Kyun itna chilla rahi ho? Why are you screaming so much?" Every woman here is pushing, some with epidural, some without. So nothing makes you extra special. And that's coming from one woman to another woman. and I have, in the last 15 years I've seen, 16 years I've seen, that I've found male nurses to be more compassionate than female nurses. And then they have to be given a whole training around, why are you being so mean? And she's like, oh, she's just screaming for no reason. Like, but she's probably in pain. But you see, these are the kind of things we overlook. Or if we've entered into a household where a mother is rearing children, another woman from like a higher matriarchal setup will say, we did it and we never complained about it. Okay, but that's not helping the current woman's position, or it's not solving what she may need from the support system. What she needs is for you to understand that yes, you did it with a lot of grace. She may not be able to do it, but she needs help. And so to be able to really, open up the dialogue about who's supporting who in what light, I think, Ali, that's really, a big call and a big moment for us as people who are raising awareness and talking about it, that we need to support each other without criticizing, without comparing, and without condescending. So, bring in more compassion into words.
Right, and definitely I can see where anybody going through an experience, for them, it's very important to be seen and heard first. Uh, and being told, yaar, sab kar rahe, tum kyun nahi kar rahi ho? Why you screaming? Get with the program, so to say, right? It doesn't work on a personal level. I mean, I know for a fact, having worked with clients and having gone through certain experiences myself, that being told at the point of your most pressurized moment, it's okay, ये तो होता रहता है, yeah, and especially with an experience like childbirth, which I can only imagine what the pain would be like. Having being told by someone who's probably experienced it herself, hey, yeah, why are you screaming about it? That would be so, I don't know, I can't even find the word to describe that, right? Um, and and at that point, you know, either you, Rabia, or Shaista, whoever, or both, at the point where you were going through this experience with your own children. I know, Rabia, you've not really shared much of your story yet. Would you like to share a little bit of, your journey through, how you came into motherhood and the challenges that it brought?
Of course, I think as Asma knows already, that's been the redefining moment of me as an individual, as a human, as a woman, as a mother. Because one of the first things I was made to feel. I had my daughter Alia on 11th of January 2013. She was my second born. And as an empowered woman of this day and age, I was like, oh, I'm gonna get back on my feet, put my kids in a knapsack, and get back into this world and really, really conquer it. And what I was facing was a bit of shamefulness, a bit of pity, where I bore a daughter who was born with Apert syndrome, which is a cranial defect. Her hands and feet were affected, and so with the worst form of disability that a child can come into this world. And one of the things with shame and trauma that I faced, Ali, were log kya kahenge when you're going to step out with her? How are you going to step out with her? Okay, if eventually you do muster up the courage to step out with her, how's she going to get married? Is she ever going to be normal? And that those were the kind of dialogues, Ali, that I was bombarded with. And here I was thinking, hey, I thought this only happens in the uneducated circles. I, I'm a person of resource. I'm a person of education. Why am I getting to hear this from other people of resource and education or literacy? And that kind of explained to me back in 2013 that the mindset is not it's not just strata based, or it's not just literacy based. It was our mindset back in the day, and it has drastically changed. Today we are a system um, who has learned to be more tolerant and more compassionate to others' needs. When Alia was about a few weeks old, and I was looking for support, I was flabbergasted not to find any sort of support, and the support that I had was friends, who found out, like my conventarians and my college mates, and they reached out to me and they're like, "Oh, but you're gonna you're gonna be her force, and you're gonna do it." And then the question was, how can somebody help me? Can somebody support me? Can somebody teach me? So there has to be a sense of openness, Ali. I heard the word victim earlier on in this conversation, and the thing is that we are only victim of our own mindset. So what we can unlock is what we persevere to, go the whole mile. And so with Alia in tow, it was honestly, it was a lot of eyes staring. It was a lot of eyes shaming, but it was also a lot of eyes who didn't know how to support me better. And so I had to teach them that, listen, I know you don't mean, I mean, you don't mean any harm. I know that you're not there to tell me off. I know that you're looking out for me, but these words right now are not giving me any sympathy or any support. They're making me feel weaker. They're making me feel like I'm getting isolated. They're making me feel out of place, and that's what takes 99% of families who have children or who have circumstances which are not in the confined to the norms, into seclusion or into isolation. And so that became the narrative. लोगों का काम है कहना, लोगों का काम है बातें करना, करने दो बातें. You have to stand up with grace for yourself, and you have to become your child's grace, because who's going to be her advocate or who's going to be his advocate? And so there began in 2013 through a very small blog. I started writing, I started advocating for Alia. I started talking about how, we don't have ramps and we don't have any kind of inclusion in place. Forget inclusion, we don't have an understanding of how to treat somebody who may come up with needs, whether they're visually impaired, hearing impaired, whether they're in a wheelchair. How do we receive them? And after a lot of time, Ali, spending a lot of time in the malls and in the schools and in the community centers, one of the things I understood, people don't know how. We just have to teach them how to receive. And so I started this slogan, which was which really came from the Disney cartoon Bambi. It was like, if you can't say nothing at all, if you can't say something nice, don't say nothing at all. And the essence of it was, you don't have to put your two bits in. अगर कोई आ रहा है और उसको receive करना है, तो आप बस smile कर लें. अपनी आंखें मत कतराएं, because if you were shying away, that's your shyness. But the other person who's receiving your shyness is receiving it as shame. And so we had a very, very long challenging circumstances where I had a caterpillar who, but for me, she was in a cocoon, and she is now in the stages of a budding rose, and that became her story. She became my apart rose. But along with that, she was able to give a lot of people the opportunity not to remain in their cocoon and come out of it, and allow their families to come out of it, because there is no shame in the way we are born, and we create our own normal. So I think advocacy became my finding grace in a way. But it was also tackling a lot of hurtful situations, tackling a 3-year-old son whose schoolmates were saying, "Oh my God, your sister's a Frankenstein." How to manage that, how to manage emotions in the larger household, and women carry all of that. So one of the things that I really promote is we need to talk. We need to promote talking, and we need to promote, if you can't reach out, if you don't have the funds to go to a therapist, go to a support group, because now support groups exist. So it's about raising awareness कि ये कहना कि नहीं है कुछ available, नहीं, 10 साल पहले नहीं था, लेकिन अब बहुत कुछ है available. So yeah.
That's wonderful, Rabia. Thank you for sharing that. And I think what you said was, sometimes we have to teach people how to deal with a situation they don't understand, because for them, their reaction to something unknown is coming from the fact that मुझे नहीं पता क्या करना है. How do I deal with this unknown situation that this is the first time I've experienced in my life, maybe. So I think that's a beautiful way of coping with it, and then learning from that experience. If the other person doesn't understand, then let's make them understand it. So, Rabia, would you say that your definition of success changed after this experience of your motherhood? Okay, Rabia, I think might have lost. Okay.
So if I understand correctly, Ali, you asked that what is my definition of success after this experience?
Yes.
It made me rethink what success means to me. I think for me at the age of 20, my success was where I'm going to get a job. If I'm going to be an entrepreneur, how much money am I going to make? Am I going to be successful? That was success. When I had my kids, am I going to be an amazing mother? Is my child going to run to me and say, "Oh, I love you, mama"? So the idea of success also changed a great deal, Ali, because success for me became, are my children independent, and is my child with special needs an independent child? Can she become a part of the community and our society without feeling an outcast? Can other children be helped with that kind of notion? So really, the idea and the concept of success changed for me, but it also made me grow, Ali, as an individual who was ready to adapt and not just remain confined to one arena of mindset. That becomes the true definition of grit, where we are able to adapt, when we are able to fall and pick ourselves up again, when we are able to say, okay, I've identified this is not working, how can I redo this? And that redoing with grace became my understanding of success. Do it as many times as I need to, without the fear of shame, without the fear of who's watching, because I'm not in a race with anyone. I'm in a race in my own lane, with myself, with my own concept, with my own mindset, and what I want to achieve and how I would like to achieve it, what pace I would like to achieve it. Because देखो अली, हम क्या करते हैं, अच्छा उसके बच्चे ये कर रहे हैं, अच्छा वो ये कर रही हैं. We're in a constant rhythm of rat race of comparison. We're in a constant there is no limit to the amount we can stretch ourselves, but is that stretching helping us? So being more compassionate to myself, putting myself first. हमारे देसी हाउसहोल्ड्स में एक कॉन्सेप्ट है कि एक अच्छी माँ की डेफिनेशन है, if she feeds her husband and her children first. And take care when children are small or when they're babies, obviously, they have to be fed. But if a woman is starving herself, if a woman is not taking care of her needs, she cannot, by any conditions, create a holistic or a wholesome approach in her family nucleus. So, looking after the woman and the woman looking after herself is the most important thing she can do for herself, and she can teach her own children and her surroundings. And ये हमारे घर में एक बहुत मेरे घर में तो बहुत ही ज्यादा एक कॉमेडी सा बन गया है कि ओ जहाँ पे भी राबिया जाएगी ना वहां पे जो स्टाफ होगा ना वो बहुत empowered होगा, because the idea is that you are women, you are coming out of your homes, you're taking buses, आप buses लेके आप आ रही हैं, आप कमा रही हैं, आप सब कुछ कर रही हैं, तो जो आपके हाथ में पैसा आता है उसके ऊपर आपका कोई हक नहीं है. So don't want to go into a completely different arena, but honestly, Ali, it really redefines you as a person when your ability to understand um, aspects, expectations, and limitations of what success are and what success is to you personally in the moment that you are in, not in the future, not in the past, but in the moment you are in.
Thank you. That was that really covered my
That
question
was a
and so
strong
much more
one.
that we learned. Yeah.
That was a very
Shaista,
strong one.
Asma,
Go
do you
ahead,
want to
Aziz.
ask a question?
No, go ahead, go ahead.
So I wanted to ask Shaista a similar question on success. Being in that sort of corporate kind of environment that you are in. Success often is defined as the hours you spend at work and breaking the glass ceiling, and for women especially, right? So is that how you view success now? Um, because I know that you mentor a lot of women who are coming up in these fields. So, what advice would you give to women who are coming in and trying to make sense of how to balance this family versus career equation?
So, Ali, to answer your question, when I've been through this entire journey, right? And part of that is also, attributed to, I mean, why I made the choice to shift to this impact industry rather than work for the corporate sector. When I was pregnant with my first kid, I was terminated from my job, and this was a bank. And because apparently now I had become an employee who was a burden and not like sort of a resource that could be productive. And I realized at that point in time that I no longer wanted to work in an environment where which had no empathy or had no heart, and that's why I chose to switch to the development sector. And I sort of, because most of my work is also around helping women entrepreneurs set up their businesses at a micro level or at a nano level. I was constantly dealing with the definition of women empowerment. And I realized, and to this day, I realized how sort of skewed that definition was. It sort of portrays a woman who's independent, self-sufficient, doesn't need anybody, doesn't even probably care for the family unit because it's her first at all instances. And I realized how that definition and that understanding of women empowerment was jeopardizing the very purpose of why we wanted women to be empowered, or what it meant for women to be empowered. And my work was concentrated on helping women make better choices for themselves, for their families, for their communities. And it simply is that definition that the world was following, or it has, was counterproductive to the work that we were doing, right? Even if it were a man in this situation. And I constantly only talked about an individualistic approach. How was I ever going to build, or contribute to the building of successful communities? It simply wasn't going to happen. And then I kind of realized that this sham or this fad or whatever the world, they like to sell this definition, helps them sell their products, build more products. So, uh, so I realized I kind of took a step back, and I started building it into my narrative in the kind of work now that we do with women, where we tell them, well, this is not only can you contribute to your own personality, but to your households and your community. This is how you can contribute. It's not just about one person at all. And, you were just talking about glass ceilings. More than that, I think wrong definitions and stupid expectations is something that we constantly have to break on a day-to-day basis. It can get very, very exhausting. Your, an organizational profitability or the achievement of objectives, these things are gender agnostic. They don't recognize who's going to be achieving them. So technically, whether you're a man or a woman and you're sit at the top, you have to put in your very best, long hours, really hard work in order to achieve that. So it just becomes less about gender and more about competence and talent and heart and intellect than more than anything else. And then there is the fact that, and not feeling shameful for it at all, that men and women lead in very different ways. We do. We're not the same species. We're two different species or subspecies of one larger species. And there, you will not find one book that talks about how women lead. All the models that have been taught to us, and you've been to business school as well, and you would understand just these books written about leadership by men. We don't really have a women's version of leadership where, she is dealing with 20 different thousand issues as a person, psychologically, physiologically, physically, emotionally. It's a roller coaster. We don't talk about, and generally, where there's no conversation about perimenopause or menopause, none of that. And the fact that, yes, it does impact you as a person, and how do women lead through that? And there is no shame in recognizing this, because these are all very natural processes. We can't keep a sort of comparing ourselves to the barometer or the matrix that has been structured by men. They simply don't take 50% of the population of the world into account. We lead differently. We are created to nurture. We have been, our DNA has a giving property. That's how just we are. So that will be reflected in the way that we lead. And we cannot and should not be made to feel weak about it. Right? If I want to deal with my employees with empathy, I should not be called a weakling when that happens, because that's how I lead. It's in my DNA. I'm not, why am I forced to sort of adopt a style that is, I'm not interested in being a man. I was born a woman, and that's what I want to stay and remain as, and use the faculties that I was born with, rather than assume something that simply does not belong to me. And that's I mean, glass ceiling aside, biases aside, it's like constantly being compared by a model that, because a new model has not been discussed. We talk about women being on boards, and we talk about women in leadership positions, but nobody has taken the time to actually kind of discuss what it means when a woman is in the leadership position, right? The fact that and I'm telling you from experience, right? That if you are loud and aggressive, and there will be members of your team who are going to say, she can't talk to me like that. How dare she speak to me like that? They simply wouldn't think the same way if a man were to do it, right? And it's a big sort of, a shock to the system, तो आप कहाँ glass ceilings तोड़ेंगे? पहले लोगों की false expectations तो तोड़ें कि वो एक औरत से एक मर्द का एटीट्यूड एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे होते हैं, मगर उनमें इतना गट नहीं होता कि वो जो नेचुरली उसका डीएनए है या उसका स्ट्रक्चर है या उसका एटीट्यूड है उसको वो एक्सेप्ट करे। तो वो बीच में कहीं फंसे हुए हैं, तो बहुत सारी चीजें आपको तोड़नी पड़ती हैं until you come to one final point and you say, look, I'm not going to follow any model that's been given in the book. I will be a servant leader. I will be an autocratic leader. I will be whatever those models are, when and where and as and when required. That's my style. And I will define my own particular style, and the world needs to kind of get used to that. So वो जो मैं आपको शुरू में कह रही थी ना कि उठा के बहुत सारी डेफिनेशंस हम कचरे में फेंक दें, वो करने की जरूरत है, क्योंकि एंड ऑफ द डे जब कंपनी की प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी पे बात आती है ना, तो वो जेंडर वेंडर नहीं देख रहा होता कोई, वो वहां फिर सब एग्नोस्टिक हो जाता है। इट्स अबाउट परफॉर्मेंस एसेंशियली। बट जो लीड और डील कर रहा है वो अपने अपने पर्सनल अंदाज और उससे करेगा। एक मर्द दूसरे मर्द से डिफरेंटली लीड करता है, सब मर्द एक तरीके से नहीं करते, सिमिलरली खवातीन भी डिफरेंट तरीके से करती हैं, मगर क्योंकि वो 10 या 15 किस्म के हैं डेफिनेशंस, और उसके अगेंस्ट आप उनको रिकग्नाइज तो करें कि डिफरेंट स्पीसीज हैं और डिफरेंटली ही डील करेंगी। तो आई डिसाइडेड कि मैं अपनी डेफिनेशन खुद बनाऊंगी, और वो हो सकता है 50 लोगों को अच्छा लगे, 50 लोगों को अच्छा ना लगे, बट मेरा विजन तो बहुत क्लियर है ना कि मुझे अपनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को आगे बढ़ाना है, या मैं उसके लिए काम करना चाहती हूँ। तो जब वो विजन मेरा क्लियर है तो फिर मुझे फिर अपने उस हिसाब से वो करना पड़ेगा। और हाँ, ग्लास सीलिंग्स आती हैं, लोगों की बड़ी स्ट्रेंज एक्सपेक्टेशंस भी होती हैं, बट आपका अपना भी तो एक वैल्यू सिस्टम होता है जिसके अगेंस्ट आप नेविगेट कर रहे होते हैं, और उसको उसमें लेके कर रहे होते हैं। एंड इवेंचुअली आई थिंक मैंने ये एक्सपेक्टेशन अपने ऊपर से ख़त्म कर दी कि कोई क्या सोचेगा मेरे बारे में अगर मैं ऐसे लीड करूँगी। आई रियली डोंट केयर नाउ। I used to care about it a lot. It used to really matter to me. And then I said, I don't care, because I think I know what is right and I need to steer the ship in a particular direction. And the fact is that I will be measured and compared all the time to other things. And I just need to make my own definition, and I need to stop listening to it's very hard. कहना बहुत आसान है because you're constantly looking for validation. But it's hard to kind of let that go. But I can tell you that when you're on the other side, it is the most liberating feeling on the planet. So yeah.
Right. Asma?
But beautifully said, Shaista, and I totally agree with you when you said that it's very strange how when a woman leads, and if she has an aggressive tone, she's labeled as Batamiz and how dare she speaks with me. And this is something that I've experienced on my own. Um, and with that, the one thing that always comes to my mind is, yes, the women leaders have never been documented, and their style and their work has never been really put out there. If I were to ask you one thing that you have thrown away in terms of the glass ceiling thought processes, and what have you really applied to your style of work that has helped you, and also not just helped you with your team, but also helped you not care about what other people think and what would say in helping you to progress with yourself as well as in your work altogether? What would be that one thing and style that you would document is this is my style and I want people to know about?
So one thing, Asma, when I was made CEO, I was जाहिर है आप किसी की जगह आते हैं, और ये मैंने रिपीटेडली सिर्फ अपने साथ नहीं और लोगों के साथ भी होते हुए देखा है। तो वो एक कहते हैं ना, आई हैव रियली बिग शूज टू फिल। प्लीज इस स्टेटमेंट को और इस एक्सप्रेशन को उठा के कचरे में फेंक दें, क्योंकि आप make your own shoes. Stop it. You don't need to fill anybody's shoes. Make your own shoes and start afresh. Because you know what? ये जो लेगेसी वाला जो थॉट प्रोसेस होता है ना, ये बड़ा सफोकेटिंग है, बहुत डेट्रीमेंटल है और काफी टॉक्सिक है। इसको भी उठा के कचरे में फेंक दीजिए। लेगेसी बने ना बने वो उसका कोई कुछ कह नहीं सकता है, बट आप इन दैट मोमेंट जो कर सकते हैं, जो बेस्ट पॉसिबल चीज है, वो डिसीजंस आप अपने लीजिए। आप किस वी हैवंट क्रिएटेड टू फिल एनीबॉडीज शूज, we have been created to make our own shoes and make our own space and place within the organizations we have, the households we live in on this planet. So get rid of that thought process in order to, and be transparent and honest with your team even when times are really really bad. Tell them how it is, and when times are good, of course celebrate with them, but just be super honest with them. And I मेरी टीम अक्सर मुझसे कहती थी आप पानी में धक्का दे देती हैं, तो मैंने कहा भाई तैरना भी फिर वैसे ही सीखते हैं, और ज़रूरी होता है कि आप उन्हें वो ऑटोनॉमी और वो स्पेस दें जहां वो क्रिएटिव हो सकते हैं, राइट? We do the same with our children, don't we? We let them go out, explore, and fall, fail, and then learn. And sometimes you need to bring that, you kind of need to strategically use that motherly instinct to fit it and say, how would this look like? The fact is कि जो हमें nurturing और giving की सेंसेस अल्लाह ताला ने दी हैं, और मदरहुड का एक जो इनबिल्ट है, चाहे आप माँ हो या ना हो, वो एक है, वो एक स्विच है जो ऑन हो जाता है आपका। उनको स्ट्रेटेजी, वो स्ट्रेंथ्स हैं आपकी, नॉट अ वीकनेस। आप एम्पथाइज कर सकते हैं, हम एज वुमेन कंपैशनेट होते हैं, हम फील कर सकते हैं दूसरे का पेन, ये बहुत, दीज आर बिग स्ट्रेंथ्स। But to be able in a leadership position, use these strengths like medals and trophies and superpowers to steer your organization, because you will end up, you know, making decisions for the team that work. um you know and 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 yeah, and stop comparing yourself. If you need to also throw away one more thing, is listen to all the great leaders in the world. I mean, there's no harm in listening to a TED talk, but they are not you and you are not them, and you have your own unique situation. And you will be the kind of leader you will be. You don't need to compare yourself to anyone. Don't do that. Because as soon as you stop doing that, you will start creating your own definition. And this pressure that we feel at the back of our neck, that we have to prove ourselves to the world, परफॉर्मेंस प्रेशर के अलावा मैं बात कर रही हूँ, जाहिर है वो तो एक रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी होती है, बट ये कि उस रेस से निकल जाएं, उसका ना कोई फायदा है। इट इज एग्जॉस्टिंग एंड इट जस्ट, इट्स ऑल, इट विल बर्न यू। सो या।
Thank you so much, Aisha. Rabia, on to you as well. You know, you with Alia, we saw you build a community, and we saw you build a community not because you needed that community, but you also understood the need of the hour and how much it was needed uh, around us, around every single individual who needed extra help or needed some guidance. What was that like for you? If you could share with our audience now. Rabia?
Absolutely, Asma. And the interesting bit is, I think, how you said that, not that I needed the community. I needed it a lot. I needed it a lot to be the person I am today. एक मैंने स्टोरी शेयर करी थी बहुत अर्ली ऑन इन आवर इन माइन एंड आलिया's journey because it was her journey, but it completely transformed me, like I've mentioned before, as an individual, to be able to open my eyes and look around me. क्योंकि अमूमन क्या होता है जब हम हवा के घोड़े पे चल रहे होते हैं या सक्सेस के घोड़े पे दौड़ रहे होते हैं, हम इर्द गिर्द देखना भूल जाते हैं. And so, one of my really these stories that I started blogging was Alia ko mujhe, since she was 4 days old, I had to take her to the rehabilitation center for her physical therapy needs to be met. And you know, 5 days के बाद it became 5 months, and in 5 months, उधर comfortably बैठी हुई हूँ manicured पाँव के साथ. And I said the story of Farheen, this mother with 2 boys. She used to live in a jhuggi. And वो झुग्गी से आती थी खान हॉस्पिटल. एंड हम दोनों के पाँव एक बराबर बराबर थे. उसकी फटी हुई शलवार थी, 2 डिफरेंट चप्पलें थी, और बराबर में मेरे नियॉन मैनिक्योर्ड समर रेडी पाँव थे. And it kind of gave us the visual, right? I mean, what is one mother's challenge and what is another mother's struggle, right? But the community, when I started talking to Farheen and she told me how she has to navigate through life, I had no idea. I had no idea कि क्या किस्म के systems in place हैं, औरतों के ख़वातीन किस तरह क्या काम कर रही हैं, किस तरह अपने घरों से लड़ के निकलती हैं अपने बच्चों के लिए, अपने लिए. So even if a mother had to, like, get some kind of maternity help, which would help her with maybe vitamins or maybe, उसको एक पूरे मोहल्ले से इजाजत लेके आना पड़ता था. एंड हम उस इजाजत को, बीइंग इन अ पर्टिकुलर स्ट्रैटा, हम उस इजाजत को हम तो नजरअंदाज कर देते हैं. वी डोंट इवन थिंक अबाउट इट. सो आई थिंक creating special needs Pakistan was not just a need for others. It was a need for me to be able to understand my own country, my own city, and my own community. कि मैं भी इस कम्युनिटी का हिस्सा हूँ. मेरा नजरिया शायद डिफरेंट है, but there are so many others who make their perspectives make up this community also. And so, I mean, we started with a handful. You were one of the first to be a part of that community too. And and now we are like 36,000 plus families. There are 100 plus volunteers. And the idea of it is to be able to not just validate, but witness each other's challenges. क्योंकि, like said earlier, शाइस्ता ने भी कहा कि चैलेंज जो दिख रहा होता है, भले आप कॉर्पोरेट में हो, भले आप किसी के घर में काम कर रहे हो, भले आप किसी किस्म का भी जॉब कर रहे हो, उस वक्त का जो चैलेंज होता है वो किसी को दिखाई नहीं देता, या उस वक्त की जो प्रोसेस होता है वो किसी को पता नहीं होता. बट हाउ यू आर डीलिंग विद इट, you as moms, we show up at work. How many sick days are you going to take if your children are sick? So there will be days that you will have to come into work. You will have to put in your child in the daycare. You will have to hand over your child to somebody else, and that is a hard gulp for a lot of mothers, And uska parameter kya hota hai? Guilt. So I think it was especially इस पाकिस्तान की जो एक I think beauty है या खासियत है, is taking on not just the community for the differently abled or the specially abled, becoming a support system for the caregivers and the families, but also empowering the caregivers, teaching them, how they can sort of sustain and manage their own lives, sustain and manage their own expectations, how they can show up for themselves more, how they can make their partners, whether a husband or wife, more compassionate and tolerant towards their situation. And so, changing the narrative, जो एक हमारा जो narrative होता है, कि अल्लाह देख लेगा, हो जाएगा. So one of the main narratives over there was कि yes, ये challenge है, अब तुम इसके साथ क्या करोगी, अब तुम इसको किस तरह संभालोगी, ठीक है. because most of the, when I started working with women, and most of the things that I had to sort of hear for myself and for other women were कि आप इस बच्चे को अब लेके जाएं, अल्लाह इसका ख्याल रखेगा. घर वाले ये कह रहे होते थे कि अल्लाह इसका ख्याल रखेगा. And you're looking nervous and you're looking everywhere and you're going, um, how do I help myself? How do I help
How do I
navigate
do
my
I
child
do
through
that?
this trauma? Right? मतलब क्या होगा? And so
Yeah.
so teaching again, Asma, teaching through that community setup. It started off as an online platform, has integrated into a community support system as a support group for mothers, support group for fathers, support group for siblings. कि yes, हमें ये कांस्टेंट नैरेटिव सुनने को मिलते हैं, बट हमारा काम है कि हम इसको किस तरह कन्वर्ट करके अपना दिमाग लड़ाएं और आगे इस चीज को बढ़ाएं. So, really motivating people through really simple, basic systems, but also having um, having a portal that witnesses everybody's challenges, and that became I think that's become the dialogue for SNP.
So one of the participants also shared that, it's one of the most beautiful things about grit is that it really makes you humble towards your own impact. So if anyone would want to comment on this as well, how that humbling experience has been. And yes, Rabia, you actually brought up one of the core messages around what we wanted to bring up as well, that guilt that a mom holds. And Shaista has been constantly saying that out loud. Throw those glass ceilings away and throw those narratives जो हमें एक expectations के साथ लेकर चल रहे होते हैं constantly, that mom guilt is always there and it's always lingering around. And I wish there were more men other than Ali as well over here to actually hear this out, because to be very honest, I see so many men single-handedly also take care of their children. And it's not just only mom guilt as well. There are times when I've seen even a single parent and a male parent also go through that narrative कि अब तुम क्या करोगे और किस तरीके से बच्चों को मैनेज करोगे, हैंडल कर लोगे, जाओ दूसरी शादी करो. Is it always just that it is going to handle that situation for them? Don't the kids also just need their parent as a bond for them to actually also be a part of that community? So yeah. So let's talk about the guilt first, and then we can come back to other humbling experiences as well. Rabia, Shaista, whoever would like to comment on this
Yeah.
first.
Oh my God. So mom guilt. It's like possibly it's the worst, and it's something that never really ends ना, क्योंकि बात ये है कि वो the way that it's made to sound like is that being a mom and being a woman are in conflict. So you cannot be both. You have to pick a side, and the fact that you have to choose, some things will not change. The child needs time, quality time, good time, and it needs love and care and attention from the parents, not just the mother, the father also. Okay, but in our cultures, because मर्द घर से बाहर कमाने के लिए ज्यादा निकलता है, अब थोड़ा जाहिर है वो चेंज होगी, मगर जनरली यही था कि शी इज गोइंग टू बी होम एंड शी इज गोइंग टू बी टेकिंग, एंड दैट वॉइड जो बाप का एक वॉइड होता है, क्योंकि वो घर आने के बाद बात भी शायद नहीं करना चाहता है इन मोस्ट केसेस, तो वो वॉइड फिल करना है. And I'm not saying, dads don't do their bit. Some dads are working very hard and they have a great bond with their kids, and it's like a dual thing that's happening. But generally मैं आपको बता रही हूँ जो thought process हमारे यहाँ है. तो इन एंड तो वहां वो फिर वो चीज जो है ना वो क्रिएट हो जाती है कि भाई आप एक रोल कर सकती हैं, बट दोनों चीजें एक साथ नहीं होती. फिर मॉम गिल्ट आती कहाँ से, राइट? इट्स नॉट अबाउट, it doesn't stem from being a bad mother, because there are no bad mothers. How can there be a bad mother, right? You give birth to your child, and the first instinct is to protect it, to love it, to care for it, right? All of those things. Mom guilt comes when you care too deeply and you're really stretched impossibly, क्योंकि आपको 4 जगह होना है और आपको हर चीज फुलफिल करनी है, एंड आप एक तरह की चीज अपने बच्चे को देना चाहते हैं, एक सर्टेन लाइफ स्टैंडर्ड देखना देना चाहते हैं, बट लाइफ ऑब्वियसली हैज अदर प्लान्स एंड इट डिमांड्स अदर थिंग्स फ्रॉम अस. So that's where it kind of emanates from, and the way to kind of deal with it, and it's not easy, again, is is to understand that, uh like I said, you can be a woman and you can be a mother, all at the same time. These two things are not in conflict. And it's like also understanding that if you need to kind of leave for a work trip, you don't stop becoming, or you don't stop being your child's safe space. वो आप रहेंगी, आपको कुछ डिसीजन ऑन अ डेली बेसिस एज अ वर्किंग पर्सन लेने हैं, तो वो तो आप करेंगी, और मगर इसका ये मतलब नहीं है कि आप उन रोल्स से हट गई हैं या खत्म हो गई हैं, राइट? आपकी मटर्नल वर्थ जो है वो इस चीज से नहीं डिटर्मिन होगी कि आप एक पेरेंट टीचर मीटिंग के लिए जो है वो लेट हो गए. यूर अ वर्किंग पर्सन अगेन. मैं यहाँ मदर और फादर का लफ्ज ही इस्तेमाल नहीं कर रही. एज अ वर्किंग पर्सन ये चीजें होती हैं, राइट? और दूसरा ये कि ये चीज रियलाइज करना कि बच्चों को एक परफेक्ट माँ की जरूरत नहीं होती है. दे नीड अ मदर हु इज प्रेजेंट एंड इन द मोमेंट. और जब आप उनके साथ बैठे हो तो आप अपने मोबाइल पे ना लगे हो, उनको ये चाहिए. तो उनके पास परफेक्ट इम्परफेक्ट मदर और उसकी तो डेफिनेशन है ही नहीं. दे लव यू एज यू आर, दे वांट योर प्रेजेंस, दे वांट टू सिट विद यू, cuddle with you, tell you their stories, discuss things with you, whether that's for 10 hours a day. And in the reality of things, as children are growing up, कितना टाइम बच्चे जो है वो बैठ के एक्चुअली पेरेंट्स के साथ गुजार रहे हो, तो इसका क्या मतलब है कि पेरेंट्स की कोई ओवरसाइट नहीं है बच्चों पे, या माँ की ओवरसाइट नहीं है, या वो केयर नहीं करती है, या जो एक इनविजिबल, क्या कहेंगे उसको, कोई होली मैनुअल है मदरहुड की, वो अपेरेंटली उसने पढ़ी नहीं है तो उसको माँ बनना नहीं आता. वो चीजें हैं जो कि मैंने अपने जर्नी में रियलाइज की हैं. ओवर्टली और कोवर्टली लोगों ने हर तरीके से, आई मीन, I remember I was picking my son up from school, and I was standing there and the mothers were talking and she was asking me because I had gone back to my job, and she's like, oh, I'm so sad. तो आप तो टाइम ही नहीं दिलाती होंगी अपने बच्चों को. तो ये जो जजमेंट है ना आपकी, and this is another woman saying it to me instead of sort of lifting me up and saying, तो वो गिल्ट खत्म करनी पड़ेगी. वी हैव टू स्टॉप मेकिंग सच अ बिग डील आउट ऑफ इट. बहुत सारे घरों में दोनों पेरेंट्स को काम करना पड़ता है. बहुत सारे घरों में अब वो चॉइस है नहीं है, एम्बिशन है नहीं है, हम पता नहीं इस डिबेट में क्यों पढ़ते हैं, क्योंकि everybody is allowed, man or woman, they are allowed an ambition. So if they want to do it and they are able to balance their lives, uh, I don't think they should be judged for it, at all. And the fact is that it's perfection is not the theory here. The fact is कि आपका बच्चा आपको रोजाना स्ट्रगल करता हुआ देख रहा है. आप सुबह उठ रहे हैं, दो को इधर ड्रॉप करना है, एक को उधर करना है, वो उस सारे जर्नी के थ्रू आपको देख रहे हैं, आप अपने उस पे भी जा रहे हैं, सारा कुछ जा रहे हैं. यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड कि वो किस नजर से बच्चे आपको देख रहे होते हैं. यू आर नॉट अ फेलियर देन, यू आर एक्चुअली प्लांटिंग resilience in them. And they're going to remember it when they grow up, that she kept doing this, or she did whatever she did, whether she was working or not. She was making, with the multiple things she had at hand. They will be able to remember us for the strength that we demonstrated when we were struggling. And mom guilt, aap dekhein, I mean, for all the mothers here and everybody who's possibly going to be listening to this, the moment you sit with your child 2 घंटा, just quality time, focused with the child, चाहे आप उसके साथ बैठ के पेंट कर रहे हो, अपने हाथ से खाना खिला रहे हो, जो भी है उसकी बात सुन रहे हो, really being with them, वो mom guilt fade कर जाती है. क्योंकि वो उस डिस्टेंस से पैदा होती है जब आप अपने बच्चे के साथ एक्चुअली नहीं होते. And I also realized we have to, as mothers, we need to learn to forgive ourselves, because and because we often forget that children, as tender as they might be, they are not fragile. Okay, they are, Allah Ta'ala has created them with the capability that they're quite resilient. We don't realize that about kids. And we also have to understand as moms that they are wired uh, um, to love us with abandon, right? It's not about the fact whether we're right or wrong. And you will notice this, आप बच्चे को डांटते थोड़ी देर बाद वो फिर आ जाता है आपके पास, कितने ही बड़े हो जाएं. That's how it kind of, they're wired. That connection is, there is no power on earth that can undo that. Okay, because and you need to hence forgive yourselves for the times that you've been late to races, haven't been able to turn up for sports days. And talk to your kids about it if you are a parent who is working, because yes, it's going to be tough. We it's but either ways, whether you're a working parent or not, motherhood is tough. It's a very tough job. You have a piece of your heart outside of your body, and you have all this craziness that's going on, and you're like, God, please, I want to protect them from everything that there is, but you can't. They're in the world, they're going to fall, fail, learn, all of that, and it's going to happen. And um, nobody can be there for that journey all the time, right? So for the moms who give you a hard time because apparently they've been super moms, well, good for them, that was their journey. आपका अपना जर्नी होगा. ये बस ये अज्यूम कर लें कि आप जहाँ हैं, जिस तरह से आप अपने बच्चों से डील कर रही हैं, कर रहे हैं, वो आपका अपना जर्नी, और वो आप ही का रहेगा, राइट? सो उसको कंपेयर करना बंद कर दें.
Right. Rabia, your 2 cents, so we can end to our day.
I think Shaista said so many things so beautifully about guilt. Now, something that I would like to add is कि ये जो guilt है या ये जो guilt का एहसास है, अभी मैं भूल भी रही हूँ कि guilt का जो actual उर्दू का लफ्ज होता है क्या होता है, क्योंकि it's for us as Pakistanis ये एक essence है जो हम बिफोर इवन वी आर बोर्न हमें पता होता है कि गिल्ट किस तरह महसूस करते हैं. अगर आप बच्चे हो तो आपको महसूस कराया जाता है कि आपके माँ बाप आपके लिए कितना कर रहे हैं. अगर आप माँ बाप हो तो आपको दूसरों से महसूस कराया जाता है कि आप कितना अच्छे माँ बाप बन रहे हो या नहीं बन रहे. एंड सो there's a constant rat race and reminder of guilt, and it's deeply embedded into our emotional sensibilities and into our emotional structures of family and households. And हम क्या करते हैं, हम उसको प्रोजेक्ट करते रहते हैं, अपने ऊपर से दूसरों के ऊपर डालते रहते हैं, right? And as not just in specific to mothers but as women जो अभी माएँ नहीं हैं but eventually बनेंगी. एक जमाने में माँ थी और अब दादी नानी बन गई है. एक जिसने चूज करा है कि उसको माँ कभी बनना ही नहीं है, भाई वो बहुत खुश है अपने nieces and nephews के साथ. But the deliberate comparison that Shaista already spoke about that. I would really like to talk about the aspect that Shaista talked about, forgiveness. वो एक ऐसी चीज है जो ना तो हमारी जो सोसाइटी है वो कभी हमें इक्विप करती है कि अपने आप को किस तरह माफ करना है, और कि अपने आप को किस तरह प्रिपेयर करना है कि मल्टीपल फेलियर्स होंगे. एंड इट्स ओके इफ यू डोंट नो कि आपको बच्चे को दूध किस तरह पिलाना है, या आपको बच्चे को पकड़ना किस तरह है, या आपको अपना जिस्म का किस तरह से ख्याल रखना है, क्योंकि ये चीजें सिखाई ही नहीं जाती, बात ही नहीं की जाती. प्यूबर्टी की बात नहीं की जाती, मेंस्ट्रुअल साइकिल्स की बात नहीं की जाती, किसी चीज की बात ही नहीं की जाती. एंड आज जब 18-19 या like 25-year-olds, 40-year-olds come into my own personal clinic, they go, no, it was never talked about. So the guilt erupts from the lack of open communication that is, that is available. बाकी सब चीजें कर लेंगे, लेकिन बात नहीं करेंगे. So uske andar, it really teaches us what our emotional, social, and environmental constructs are like. What is allowed, what is not allowed, and what is permitted as okay and what is not. तो अगर आप अपनी बेटियों को सिखाएंगे, फाइनेंशियल लिटरेसी देंगे, सिखाएंगे कि भाई हारना सही है, नंबर अच्छे आने नहीं आ रहे सही है, लेकिन जब आगे बढ़ते हैं तो वो एक फीलिंग नहीं होती कि भाई मैं कमतर हूँ. Because जितनी वो कमतर वाली feeling prolong करती है, persist करती है, that is when that guilt completely overshadows the potential a human or that woman has. So teach your daughters to fail. Teach them how it would be like to get up after that failure. Teach them how it is to resurrect or, muster their courage after something horrific happens. कि ऐसा तो नहीं हो सकता ना कि there's going to be a bed of roses and you're going to be walking through it. Yes, like Shaista said, for some, it may come easy, but there's no comparison. But for most, there are going to be some hurdles. मैंने कभी भी नहीं सोचा था अस्मा के मेरे बेटे के बाद आलिया पैदा होगी. मैंने तो सोचा था ना, जैसे मैंने बताया कि I am going to be back into the corporate world. I'm going to be back at the top of the ladder, serving situations which are going to be impacting my own success. लेकिन जब इतनी तेजी से और इतनी जोर से नीचे गिरी, तो मुझे समझ ही नहीं आया कि अब उठाना किस तरह. एंड आई थिंक कि जब मैं गिरी हूँ, मेरी बेटी गिरी है, मेरी फैमिली गिरी है, तो फिर उनको बताना कि it's okay to fail, it's okay to sort of feel guilty, it's okay to experience all of these emotions. Because जब तक हम ये emotions नहीं experience करेंगे, तब तक हम उनका resolve या उनका मुकाबला भी नहीं कर सकेंगे. Right?
Yeah.
So we need to be able to go through that process to be able to muster the courage to face it. And
Yeah.
that's my two.
Thank you so much. Rabia, you have a question. Maham, would you like to ask that question? Okay, so I'll ask that question for you. I want to ask a question from Rabia. When you've given everything you have and it still feels like you're standing still, how do you find the meaning? How do you find the meaning in that kind of emptiness? Not in terms of motherhood, but generally. Sometimes people say a lot of things that seem too good verbally, but how do you practically do these things? Life is not always sunshine for everyone, and no matter how much you have tried, you are unable to move forward.
And isn't that such a beautiful way to ask? When everything, when you've tried everything, what do you do? I think one of the things that I do tell women when we are talking, and like the person who's asked the question, not just mothers, is that we are very quick to look at the successful journeys or the end of the journeys, or when a person has learned to swim without the floaty. और वो जो जर्नी होती है ना, जब आप you're holding on to the floaty and आप बस डरे हुए सहमे हुए, you're just standing still because you don't know whether you're going to be pulled with the riptide or whether you're going to drown. It's a very, very tough place, but I can only say कि किसी ने मेरा वो वक्त नहीं देखा जब मैं मॉल्स में बैठ के मेरा मुंह सुन होता था, बिकॉज मुझे पता ही नहीं था कि आंसू कब टपकते रहते थे. एंड जो लोग आसपास गुजर रहे होते थे ना, उनकी सिर्फ मुझे सिसकियां सुनाई देती थी, या उनकी बेचारेपन की एक एक फीलिंग पता चलती थी. Because that was a point where you are absolutely numb, you are experiencing all of those things, but nothing lasts forever. And that is one thing that I would like to say to anybody and everybody who is listening, कि nothing lasts forever. हर चीज की एक शुरुआत होती है और हर चीज का एक end और या आखिरत होती है. And 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 when we are in a situation, we feel that this is never going to end, but the end will come of that moment, and we'll think back and say, oh, ये तो गुजर गया. And one of the best examples to give is जब आप labor pain से गुजर रहे होते हो and you're going through all of the things to have that child, whether it's through natural birth, whether it's through C-section, whether it's through any kind of bringing in that new human into this world. लेकिन कुछ ही लम्हे बाद आप भूल जाते हो कि आप कितने दर्द से गुजरे हो उस इंसान को, उस नए बच्चे को इस दुनिया में लाने के लिए, पैदा करने के लिए. एंड यू आर रेडी टू गो राउंड टू कि हाँ अब बेटी हो गई, अब नेक्स्ट बेटा करेंगे, अब बेटा हो गया नेक्स्ट बेटी करेंगे, अपनी फैमिली मुकम्मल करेंगे, क्योंकि हम वो दर्द भूल जाते हैं. सो नथिंग लास्ट फॉर एवर, and to remember that nothing lasts forever, no pain lasts forever, no you learn to identify what you need in that moment of nothing is moving, everything is still. Do you need a friend? Do you need some time out? Do you need to exercise? Do you need to hydrate more? Do you need to sleep more? Listen to your body. Listen to your body to be able to say, okay, maybe I need to read something. Maybe I need to learn a language, because कोई चीज impossible नहीं है.
Thank you so much, Rabia.
So, Asma, I think Shaista has to head out to mom duties, and I think Rabia, hopefully, we pray that you get a flight back
through the airport.
Yes.
And I hope you do definitely get a flight back home soon.
So thank you for both of them for taking the time out despite all that is happening, all the chaos that is happening, and showing us truly what grit is all about. We did not really get a chance to do this the way we expected it to do. I think not at all from it all being there, but I believe that mothers are, there's a reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave that thing that, paradise lies at the feet of mothers, because I know for a fact that, as Shaista said, हमारे DNA में ही नहीं है. As fathers, to be the same kind of person, to show up in the same kind of way that mothers do. I see that with my wife. May Allah bless her for all she does for me while I'm doing other things, while working full time, may I add. And so I think that mothers, they just have this hard wiring of being nurturing, being protecting, being guiding. And, ultimately that's what this was for. I know there are so many more stories that are out there of people who are watching this, who will be watching this eventually. So I pray that people reach out on the comments on the other forums that this comes out, and share their experiences. I want to thank Shaista. I want to thank Rabia. I want to thank all of you who have attended this, whether on Zoom, whether on YouTube. And I want to thank all the people who are going to be watching this for sharing this onwards, because I think this was a conversation which was amazingly, I personally did not expect it to be so powerful in the way that, at the onset of it, we were in that chaos mode. So I want to thank all of you here. Thank you for listening with open hearts. Thank you for participating. And I think thank you to all you wonderful women who continue to move mountains in the ways that I think the world probably never gets to see and witness. So I just want to say that even if no one witnesses it, I know for a fact that one day you are going to get that reward, that witnessing on the most important day when when your highlights will be with a crown on your head, where your children will be uh, thanking you for that in the hereafter. So I know this is a tough time for the country. I know there are so many mothers who right now may be feeling that dread of their loved ones who are in situations where they have to be in danger for us. um, I know so many mothers would be terrified just the fact that there's a drone out there somewhere and the child has to go out for his or her exams and whatnot. So to all of you, thank you for being you, and may Allah protect our country, may He protect our people, and may He continue to raise the rank of those who carry love in their most tender moments and in their most strongest moments. Uh, so thank you, everyone. Asma, would you like to add something?
Thank you. You said it all. I think you said it out so beautifully and closed in so beautifully. I need not say much and keep anyone waiting as well. But thank you for being here. I just feel that you all have been immensely very strong factor with just being here. And that is what I would like to create and take that forward. And I hope everyone gets to enjoy Mother's Day tomorrow the way that you would want to enjoy it and be with your families however you would want to spend your time. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabia.
Thank you, both of you. Had a really